Morning, it's Monday, just coming up to 11:30. I'm a couple of minutes early. And today we're talking about the importance of storytelling in your business. And for lots of people, they think about storytelling, they understand the importance of storytelling. Sometimes they get confused with the process of storytelling, and an awful lot of people don't think they've got a story at all. Well, we know that's not true. Everybody has at least, at least hundreds of stories in their lives. And we have one big story that we share, that we live. After all, our life is a living story, and it's being able to immerse yourself in your story, tell it in your way, in your words, that stops other people telling your story and getting it wrong. So let's shut the door. We're just coming up to 11:29. Now everybody knows, as a speaker, for me, you start on time and you end on time. For some unknown reason, Zoom has become a place where people waddle in and out at different times, but I have to keep the discipline because as a speaker, it's absolutely vital that you stick to time. So we are going to be talking about stories. Let me share my screen with you. I just have to find the right one. So let's go here. I've now got to find the screen I'm sharing with you, which is somewhere over here. Honestly, what are we all like? Here we go. So we're going to present. And you should all be able to see that there. Okay, so the power of business storytelling. Business storytelling isn't really any different to any other storytelling. It's about creating a journey. It's about showing a transition, a transformation. It's about inspiration and motivation. It's about a hero and sometimes a villain. And sometimes those people are the same people. So all in all, it's the same principle, except the journey you're taking people on in a business story is to get them to buy, to get them to trust, to get them to become emotionally invested in what you do. So you have to craft those stories in a way that really speak to people. And it's hard to do in nonfiction. You know, we don't have fantasy and imagination to fall back on per se, but we do have our own values, our own branding, our own reasons for going into business, our own lives and our own stories. And that's why it is so important. And what storytelling can do for your business is it captures attention. And isn't that what we're all trying to do? Visibility. We've talked about this. Visibility, being seen, being heard. So important online these days that if you're not being seen and heard, you're invisible. No one will buy because no one knows you're there. So by creating, by building, by sharing your story, you will capture the attention of your audience. Now, think about storytelling. I say this every time I talk about storytelling. We are DNA'd to love, respond, and engage with stories. It's one of the first things we learn as children, as babies. We are told stories. And that continues through our lives. It continues with our reading. It continues with our interaction with other people. So stories aren't just a gimmick that people use. It's not just the latest fad that we're looking at stories as another way to market. Stories is the only way to market because we live our stories day in and day out. and we interact with other people's stories day in, day out. So it should be that it's the most natural thing in the world for you to tell your story. And yet for a lot of people, it isn't. There is an art to telling a story. There is an art to engaging and keeping that attention when you're telling stories. And the more emotional you can be, the more emotive, the more you can use your voice, the more you can create pictures in people's minds, the more attention you will get, the more they will remember. So even though you have a great story, you have to find a great way of telling that story. So some of the other things that storytelling does, it builds that connection because our synapses in our brains are firing away at a million whatevers a second. And stories help those connections come together. It helps us maintain and understand what we are being told. And it helps for us to make sense of complex information and complex ideas. We live in a very tech world, and trying to explain some of that tech or that science stuff or anything that is outside of most people's understanding means that for most people, they're not going to get it. When you can turn those complex ideas into stories, people buy into what you're talking about. They'll buy into it. It also differentiates your brand. The only thing you truly have that is unique to you is your story and your voice. Those two things are utterly and totally unique to you. And if you're not using them, then you are missing this huge chunk of your marketing and your ability to be seen and heard. You need to be jumping on this as fast as you can and getting it out there. But more than that, you need to look to someone to help you build that story so that it's appropriate for the people you're talking to, so that it talks about you, your business, and what you want people to do. It all comes down to we sell. We all do. Now, you may hate the typical cheesy salesman. You may hate the idea that you sell. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you want people to buy your service. It's why we're all in business. We have mortgages to pay and kids to feed and other things. So your story is the one that gets you in front of other people. It's the one that emotionally engages while everybody else is screaming and waving their hands about. So if you haven't got your story crafted, you need to get in touch, because it is so important that you get that done and it's done well. Stories inspire action. You know, we read books, so we're motivated to go out and do something because of a book we've read. We are inspired to try new things because of books we've read. We learn new things because of books we've read. And online, we see images, we see videos, we see snippets, we see all these things, and they inspire us to action. You've only got to look at TikTok trends. Okay, somebody comes up with some ridiculous idea of, I don't know, chucking water over their heads or some of the more dangerous things. Please don't do that. But those TikTok videos inspire action. It inspires a whole lot of people to go and do the same thing. So never lose the idea of the power that those little stories told in videos can have. How a whole movement sometimes can be created out of one small video stories. It creates memorability. People remember stories. They don't remember facts and figures. They They don't remember the graph you showed or the amount of pollution or how many hundred whatevers of plastic are in the sea. They don't remember that. They do remember the story of the one seal who had the plastic round his neck. They do remember the picture of all those floating plastic bags in the middle of the ocean. That's what people remember because it's emotional. It's an emotional attachment. They remember those things. But more than anything, a good story fosters loyalty. That's why we have influencers. All these influencers running around, they've got the loyalty of all their fans because they're really good at telling stories. They may be tiny short stories, but they're good at it. And that's what you need to get good at it. Really good. And use your story to the best advantage ever. It should be the crowning glory of your marketing. So, in one little sentence, the power of storytelling in business lies in its ability to captivate audiences. It forges emotional connections and conveys complex ideas in a memorable and impactful manner, ultimately driving engagement, fostering brand loyalty, and inspiring action. That's what it does. And isn't that what we all want? Isn't that what we're aiming for with our businesses? And if we're not, what are we doing? You need to create your powerful story. And I know a lot of you will go, well, I don't have a powerful story. Nothing amazing has ever happened to me. Nothing tragic has really ever happened to me. Everybody has a story. Everybody has something amazing and unique in their story. Everybody. The amount of people that I've worked with who come to me going, I haven't got a story. And then you dig a little deeper and you find actually they have an amazing story. They just didn't think it was a story. And that's where the work needs to be done. It's like digging for treasure. You've got to dig out those moments that make those stories. So the other power of storytelling is business creates an emotional connection. Business stories create an emotional connection. And that's hugely important. It taps into the human experience, resonating with the values, aspirations, and challenges of the audience. So you are like a telephone line directly into somebody's brain, where they're able to relate to what you're saying. They relate to your story. They relate to the aspiration and the challenge you had. And here's a tip. The more tragic your story, the more devastating your story, yes, people will empathize. People will want to know about it. But most people can't really associate with it if they've never been there. Yet the rest of our normal stories, trust me, we've all had a bit of that somewhere. So it evokes emotions such as empathy, inspiration, and nostalgia, ultimately fostering a sense of reliability, trust, and loyalty towards the brand or the organization. That's how business stories grow your business. That's how you're connecting to your audience. They create emotional connections with customers. Storytelling really is a little more complex than you think. It's about fostering the right story for your business. It's about ensuring that your story's working for you. It's not about throwing out bits and pieces of your life. People do want to know about you, the person. They do want to understand you on a personal level as well as a business level, especially small businesses when us solopreneurs. But they don't need to know everything. They just need to know the stuff is going to help them achieve whatever it is you want them to achieve. You need to be building those deeper connections, and stories will make you stand out heads above competitors that haven't really tapped into the power of the story. So storytelling as a marketing tool, and it really needs to be in your toolbox, has the power to elevate brand recognition, build that trust, and establish an emotional connection. We buy from an emotional point. A well-crafted brand story can be the pivotal element in the customer's decision to make a connection with you, to work with you, to trust you. And that is so, so important. And that, for me, is why I personally have decided that storytelling is my expertise. But for some unknown reason, the story I was telling myself was that I'm not even going to bore you with it because I've changed the story to I can. I've written a great 10-week program, which you will get to hear about over the next few weeks, that really will show you how to pull all that stuff together. I'm not going to beg you, but please consider, what is your story? Do you really know it? Have you written it down and looked at it? Do you know the pivotal moments in your life that created the change? Do you know why you went into business? Do you know why you stay in business? And the more impact you can have with your story, the more emotion, the more fun, the more adventure. You know, just think back to when you were a kid, when somebody told a story and you just hung on to every word. That's what you want to create. And that's what I can help you create, because that is my expertise. And if you want to know any more about that, please give me a call. Let's get onto Zoom and have a chat about where you are with your story. And remember that stories aren't just the written word. They're video, they're pictures, they're short reels, they're infographics. Sometimes they're just a sentence. They're very big and they can be very small. You get the emotional element in there, people will remember you. They will. I hope that has helped. You know where to find me if you need me. You'll be getting a lot more information around the new 10-week storytelling program launching in April. But if you want to have a chat with me in the meantime, get on the phone, email me, do something. All right. But seriously, get to grips with your own business message, your story. Okay, I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye.